A-Turn did not get hyped up at debut and forgotten about. I've been saying this a lot recently, where many hardcore fans of A-Turn keep saying that K-pop fans hyped up A-Turn at debut and then kicked them to the curb after their first comeback, and that is a bit of a stretch. Like I've said before many times on this channel, I think when it comes to K-pop fans, they forget that preferences are a thing, and before making a full-on assumption about something that probably isn't true, you have to do more of a overall look at things. I'm a person who thinks that ATEEZ, NCT have amazing songs, but I also have an understanding that that is a side of K-pop that isn't always perceived well by general K-pop fans because it is a type of sound that a lot of people do not preference. It's something that is not generally digestible, as something like Cupid by 50/50, and many will probably argue, well, those are completely different genres. Yes, that's exactly my point. Certain genres and certain sounds of music are considered more digestible by the general public. Others more so have to do with a personal preference. Now, there's plenty of songs from certain genres that usually have a smaller fandom that can sometimes, peek into the general public's praises, but it is a rare occasion. It is something that doesn't happen that often. So what does this have to do with A-Turn and the quote-unquote drop of hype after their debut? Well, I think that fans can forget how music and K-pop actually works. If something gets hyped up at debut, that doesn't necessarily mean that this group is going to have stability or this group's hype won't die down. We've also seen plenty of groups who get no recognition at debut and then later down the line all of a sudden become very popular. Usually the case of a group losing major hype after a debut is because of a concept change or style change, a genre change with their next comeback. Changing your concept or everything else I said can drastically affect the amount of fans who decide to leave, stay, or join the fandom. And this works at any stage of your career, whether it's the beginning, the middle, or the end. When it comes to A-Turn, they definitely had an overall switch of the style and look that they had at debut. Also, even in the sound of their music. Tic Tac definitely sounds very different from XL and Rum Pum Pum. So it's definitely not shocking that some fans decided that the music that they were putting out wasn't their cup of tea. I also believe that fans and companies underestimate the power of holding a similar concept, sound, and style with at least 2 other comebacks after your debut can hold. Now, this isn't necessarily applying to everybody. Like, I'm not saying everyone needs to do this to be successful, because no, it doesn't always work, but it has shown to at least give you a stable fan base. And I'm saying to at least give it to 3 songs because I feel like 3 songs is enough before people get bored or start calling the sound repetitive. And also 3 songs is enough to change the pace to a different chapter and try something new. There's also many groups I've seen who have kept their sound since debut and do really well at being able to be creative within that sound while still having something within the song that represents that group. It's also something that is very difficult to do, but is very impressive if you're able to do it. And off the top of my head, I can only think of a few groups who I could name that have been able to keep this going for a very long time. It's not easy at all, which is definitely why you see a lot more groups switch off and on to different genres and just try different things while just having a lore that represents their concept, because that seems like the easiest thing to do, which is why you kind of see a lot more groups do lore than have a steady sound of music, which I definitely do not mind at all. And I just looked up what A-Turn's concept or kind of idea of the group is, which is the turn of 8 boys with infinite potential. Which in itself does make sense of why they are going in the direction that they are going in. They've kind of done literally whatever they wanted with the genre of music and style that they have, which honestly is very risky but also really intriguing. So how I personally feel about 8turn is that I definitely really loved their debut song. I loved their dance, I loved the concept, I loved the look, I loved the music video, and I really loved their EP. I had the entire EP in my playlist. Now when it comes to their other comebacks, while I'm definitely going to continue to tune in to every single comeback that they have, I personally didn't like their first comeback. I just wasn't a fan of the song. But when it comes to their second comeback that just came out, and I said this in my January release ranking, that I really like the song, but I don't like the chorus, and that's the only thing keeping me from putting the song on my playlist, because I like every other part of the song. But I've definitely noticed with this new look into 8turn's music is that they are on to something. I noticed that Rum Pum Pum sounds like a mixture of Tic Tac and XL together almost. The chanting is very similar to Tic Tac, while the kind of edgy sound and style is very similar to XL. So I am very excited to see what else they're going to put out, and I will be watching every single one of their comebacks. Also the argument that they're from a small company, so that's affecting how good they're doing, and that if they were in a bigger company they'd do better. I disagree with that actually. I strictly think this comes down to the fact that they're not making music that the general public will like, but more so some people in the K-pop industry would like, and that just is what it is. Whenever I was talking about how ATEEZ and NCT and even Stray Kids have certain sound that they put out that a lot of people either hate or some people love or some people are in between, I think that is just how 8turn is. I don't necessarily think that all their misfortune has to do with them being from a small company. I honestly just think it's the type of music they're putting out and that some people just aren't vibing with it. Now, do I think that if they were making more generic music that they'd be bigger? Not necessarily, because yes, I still do think, of course, that them being from a small company does factor into how successful it is for them to possibly be. While again, they could be from a small company and be huge, that is definitely a possibility. But I'm just saying that I do think it comes down to the type of music that isn't necessarily digestible for everybody. I think it is just a thing to keep in mind and to think about, and not necessarily completely want to blame the company, but I am open to like people having the argument that if this group was under this company they'd be way bigger. It is an argument for a lot of other groups, but I am personally saying that I think that 8turn's success doesn't necessarily have to do with the company that they are under. I think there's a lot more that factors into it than just that. It doesn't mean they're a bad group or that if they were under a big company they'd suck and everyone would hate them. No, I think they definitely would be somewhat popular, but I don't think it's to the extent that a lot of people are saying they would. But that's really all I have for the video. Again, this is more of just a discussion video. I didn't really have a script for this. It's more just a ramble because I just wanted to talk about it because it was just on my mind. Just think that a lot of people just tend to forget that preferences are a thing, and I understand that opinions are a thing too, which is why I'm just stating my opinion as well. Like, if we don't agree, that is totally fine, but I do respect 8turn and I do love 8turn. I hope everyone enjoyed the video. If you did, give a like and please subscribe. Have an amazing day. Bye bye.